On this episode of Internet Business Mastery, we talk about how to accelerate your success with coaching. And in the quick tip, we talk about a book that will guide you from $0 to $100 million a year.
Welcome to InternetBusinessMastery.com, where you will learn to take control, make more money, and start an internet business today. Here are your hosts, Sterling and Jay.
Hey everyone, I'm Sterling.
And I'm Jay.
And we're on a mission to help you achieve financial freedom through internet business. To get your own roadmap to success, visit freevideogift.com. So Jay, I know you just rushed in to do this episode. What's going on?
I know, I was texting you like, I'm almost home. Yeah, so we just got back from our very first midwife appointment. So the big news, which of course you already know, in fact, you were one of the first to know, is that my wife and I are pregnant with our first child. So that's very exciting, very big life-changing news, of course. And going to be having the baby. We were thinking the due date was end of January, but they told us today, February 2nd is the official due date. I guess that's all an estimate anyway, but sometime around then, beginning of next year, we'll be having a baby. So
wow,
crazy stuff.
Oh yeah, proud papa, huh? Already.
Well, all I can say is I'm glad I'm in the position I am with my life and my time and finances, so that it's like, you know, it's a lot of big changes, a lot of things to absorb, a lot of things to think about. Of course, we're looking for a new place to live, this and that and the other. But I'm like, man, if this had been 10 years ago, you know, the stress and anxiety would have been even that much more. I'm glad I'm excited for it, but I'm glad I'm where I'm at, so that it definitely limits some of that stress that can come along with such a big life change. I mean, I don't know if I can think of much of a bigger one other than, you know, having a kid. It's a long-term commitment.
And I remember when you were saying, gosh, you know, I hope I've got everything in order. And I thought back years and years ago, at the time, my daughter's 14, my oldest daughter is. And at the time, I think I was making about $9 an hour. And my wife,
wow,
you know, at the time, my now ex-wife, she was working up till, you know, when she had my daughter. But then we were raising her on a $9 an hour income. So
wow,
can you imagine that? I was still working my way up.
Yeah,
so I think we're doing a little better now.
Right? Yeah. Given that, I guess I should be okay. Nothing to worry about. I mean, it's just like business. There's a lot of, you know, faith, just diving right in. There's a lot of just knowing, okay, I know there's unexpected things coming, but I'm just going to trust my creativity to kick in those moments and figure out, okay, how are we going to make this work? Where am I going to find the time? Where am I going to find the money? Where, you know, all those things. I mean, it's interesting, actually. There are some parallels between that uncertainty and new experience of starting a business and having a child, you know, these big lifetime type things. So I guess anybody listening to this who has gone through that whole, you know, pregnancy, has a kid, you know, maybe you can think back to that and draw from that experience of like, well, hey, I survived that. I managed it. Yeah, I got tired at some times. Yeah, it was hard at times, but it paid out in the end. And I think it's a very similar thing with, you know, diving in and starting new business with all that uncertainty. So I'm definitely drawing from the life lessons that we've learned from the things that we do, and you know, as entrepreneurs, and in you know. And you know, I'm finding it's just like with business too. I'm finding people. It's like, okay, let me go find somebody who's been there and done that recently, and I'm just gonna pick their brains and get all the tips and things that I can. And so, you know, when I was in Salt Lake with you last week, asked about a couple parenting books. Talking to my friend who's got a 2-year-old kid, asking him like, okay, strollers, rocking chair, all these things, and they're giving me all these great tips. And so, yeah, that actually just occurred to me. Interesting parallel between starting a business and having your first kid.
Nice. Well, and speaking of proud parenting, I have to say that it finally happened with one of my daughters, my youngest daughter. She finally asked the question. I haven't pushed on them at all, but I always hoped that one of them would. And she asked, how do I start an internet business? Oh,
nice.
Yay.
So, yeah, that's got to be exciting.
Yeah, and it's funny because from the academy, you know, we've got the sheet that helps you, you know, pick a niche and you know, go through what you know, design your lifestyle and all this kind of thing. So I printed that up and handed it to her, and you know, about an hour later, she had it all filled out and was all excited about it. And she's 11, so she's off to camp this week, but when she gets back, we're gonna, start going on that. And I didn't want to push them into it. I wanted them to be able to find it out of their own interest. But it's very exciting that she has finally come to it, and so that's my news. I get to finally have somebody in my family that and even my daughter that I get to help through with this process.
Well, you'll definitely have to report back on her progress and how that's going. That's very cool.
Yeah, very cool. Well, congratulations on your news.
Thanks.
And now, the features segment.
So let's talk a little bit about coaching, business coaches. Have you had some coaches that have helped you, mentors that have helped you along the way there, Sterling?
Yeah, they were actually essential. So, yeah, definitely.
Well, I did everything by myself, so you're going to have to teach this one. I'm an island.
Let's do it.
I'm a lone ranger. No one ever helped me do it.
Sure.
As if. Yeah, I think if you asked any successful person out there, they would all say, oh, yeah, there's been people that have, been key to showing me the way, holding me accountable, boosting my confidence, giving me key insights at critical times, whether it's a paid coach or just a mentor that you've been able to find. So, yeah, let's talk a little bit about how you can accelerate your success with coaching. It's, as I was putting together the outline for this episode, I was thinking back to some of the coaches that I've had, and really there has been some very important ones at different times. So let's start out it might seem like an obvious thing, but let's talk just a little bit about, what is coaching? What do we mean by coaching? It's become a lot more common thing, business coaching, life coaching, coaching for this and that and the other. It's definitely there's been a proliferation of that, I think, in the last, decade or two. But, specifically we're referring to, that person that you can, sometimes you might be fortunate to find one that, is just a mentor that has a vested interest in who you are and what you're doing and is willing to guide you. And, I certainly try to be that for some of my friends who want to start businesses. But, often it does come down to, you get to a point where you just got to find that person and pay them to guide you through and kind of be a consultant, a mentor, a sounding board, and often that pay comes along because you want to get somebody who's experienced enough, but obviously once somebody has enough experience in doing the thing, they usually value their time at such a level that there is a cost that goes along with buying some of that time, so to speak. But coaching could be in person. It could be a phone call that you have. It could be somebody, a friend that you see regularly, and that they answer your questions. Maybe they actually even give you a roadmap. They help you set goals. They ask you about how your goals are going. It takes all kinds of forms, and we all have kind of different needs and desires when it comes to having that kind of guidance. But that's specifically what we're referring to, and mostly, kind of a one-on-one type thing, or maybe in like a small group type environment. So we're not talking like a big seminar where you're in there, sitting down with 400 people. That's, I don't know that I would consider that coaching, but this is kind of what we're talking about is that one-on-one personal attention, or where it's maybe a little mastermind group, or somebody's coaching a group of you through a limited group of you through a certain process. So that's what we're referring to when we talk about coaching. So how can coaching help you? How can you accelerate your success with coaching? Why is it such an effective thing? Why is it that you're not going to find a single successful person out there who, won't list at least one, if not many, different coaches and mentors that have helped them along the way? And I think that's because, there's just some given principles that are tried and true and have always worked when it comes to achieving, your peak potential, achieving success, achieving the high, lofty goals that you have for yourself. And we are, as human beings, creatures that need that kind of connection with others. There was a much simpler time millennia ago, I guess, when it might have been you and a few other people hunting and gathering and whatever, and you could be very self-sufficient. But in our modern society, that specialization and impossibility of knowing everything you have to know to make things, to get the things done that you have to get done, is just a fact of life for us. And so, we're just talking about parenting, and that kind of guidance then is a critical part throughout our lives. Those people who are our important figures in our life. So a coach can be one of those, especially for entrepreneurs. So let's go through and walk through about, I think we got about 7 principles we wrote down here, 7 ways you can accelerate your success by finding a coach. And the first one that definitely comes to mind is just that ability to get the quick answers to things that to you, because they're unfamiliar, you've never faced them before, they can seem very daunting. It could be something as simple as, what web host do I use? Or something a little bit more complex like, how do I launch a new product? But, whatever the question may be, even the small things can sometimes be these big mountains in front of us, or at least feel like that, because it's all fresh and new. We've never had to face that before. But by having that person that you can go to and say, you know what, this question's coming to my mind. I'm feeling a little stuck. I can't move forward because I want to feel confident in the answer to this and which direction to take. And there's been many times for me that having that person to go to and get those answers has been able, something that might have held me back for months. So specifically, an example I can think of is when I was doing real estate investing. Something like, where, we used trusts to put, the house in a trust often was part of the arrangement or the deal when putting everything together. And so, a simple question like, where do I get the form for a trust? Do I go to a lawyer? Like what, I know it's a piece of paper, but where do I get that? And that, that is the kind of thing that you might spend weeks wondering about, researching, feeling like, I don't want to make the wrong decision. But I was very fortunate at one point to finally find in the local area there in Salt Lake City, a real estate investing coach, somebody I could just go to. And he's just like, here, use mine. Here's my form. This is the one I've used on, dozens and dozens of deals. And it's like, bam, okay, that's out of the way. I can move forward now. So that kind of help, that kind of answers to those questions that might otherwise hold you back is extremely valuable because you don't get overwhelmed and you don't waste time on things that just don't need to take a whole lot of time. All right, the next thing is accountability. And I think this is just natural for any kind of success goals. I mean, we all need kind of that encouragement and that outside. There's only so much willpower we all have within ourselves. And so often having that kind of help from other people can be extremely helpful. Something that comes to mind of a recently known experience is and I've used this example a lot lately, but it's the rehab of my knee after fracturing it last year. And, once I spent a couple weeks on crutches and staying off of it, obviously there's atrophy and there's rehab that has to happen in order to get your extension back, re-strengthen it. And at first I'm thinking, I can just do it myself. How hard is it? I know there's just a set of exercises I need to do. And, a physical therapist handed me a sheet and said, here are the things, here's your chart, do these things. I said, okay, great. Well, I'll be back in touch with you in a couple months to check in. But I found that it was often hard for me to feel like, am I making enough progress? Am I doing this quite right? And so then I found myself not doing it every day like I should. So at one point, I was paying that physical therapist every week just because I knew that, man, if I'm going in every Friday to see her, she's going to be checking my extension. She's going to be running me through the exercises, seeing if I'm maybe slipping or doing something kind of wrong. And I know that she's going to ask me, have you been doing your exercises every day? And on the weeks that I paid her, I did them because I knew that I was going to go and be talking to somebody who's going to be holding me accountable. And so my progress accelerated when I was paying that person to that physical therapist who had that expertise and that insight, that outside perspective. And so the accountability was incredibly important for the accelerating my progress. The third thing is to kind of have a map or a step-by-step. I was just talking earlier about becoming a parent and how one of the things I love to do is when I want to get somebody where I ask somebody who's been there and like, okay, what was that like for you? How do I get there? We were taking a walk last week, Sterling, and I said, okay, well, what are some parenting books that you've read? And you mentioned a couple, and I've gone and bought a couple of them. And my friend, so having that, it's like, okay, well, here are the challenges that, and this book's been really helpful. And I would suggest this, to get to that goal. And the kind of person I am and the values that I have. So you're able to suggest things that would be in alignment with that. Has there ever been a time that you've had a chance to ask, you wanted to get somewhere. And so you found somebody to give you that map, that step by step, like here, you're at point A, they know how to get to point B and showed you how to get there?
Yeah, I mean, when I first started out, after I went to, an internet marketing seminar, which was kind of the beginning of all of this for me, a few months later, I started realizing that even though, in the seminar when they were talking about different programs and how easy it was to do internet business, when you're actually sitting down to do it, some things, even if you're just making them harder than they need to be, either way, it's harder than most people say. And right. So I finally, one group that I had been kind of following, had a thing where I could actually do a coaching course. And it was really, I mean, at the time this was, gosh, I guess 7.5 years ago or so. It was $5,000. And they didn't have things like we do now, like payment plans and all that kind of stuff. It was just $5,000. And I'm sitting there thinking, oh my gosh, I'm tired of, and back then too, I didn't know anybody doing this. So it wasn't like I could just go somewhere and say, hey, how do I do this? And am I doing this right? It looks like it's right based on, the course that I'm going through, but I just want somebody to tell me, yes, it's right, whatever. And, so I found that. And I think that's why the month after I did that, I made my first money, which was only $600. But believe me, that $600 made me a believer, right? Like I was going, wow, I did it. I made $600. Now I got to make a whole bunch more of those so that I can quit, not need a job, but at least I finally did it. And that was right after I did that coaching. So, I think that, my plan was to keep going until I made it work either way. But the coaching most certainly accelerated it because I didn't know a lot of the things they showed me. And sometimes it's just seeing, oh, I am doing it like them. I can trust myself more because I'm seeing that they made decisions like I did. So, that was something that was very useful for me.
Well, that you kind of touch a little bit there on the next principle, and that is, just having that confidence and that motivation. It can feel very solitary when you're just trying to do this and start out, and you start going in a certain direction, and it's very natural to start questioning yourself. Well, did I choose the right direction? Am I going about this the right way? Am I making the right decision? And if you don't have that confidence, then the motivation starts waning. And so just to have that regular person to check in with and say, yeah, you're still on the right path. That was great. Keep going in that direction. You're definitely making the progress that you should, or, maybe there's a slight course correction. And that's good if there's a course correction, because then at least it's like, oh, okay, well, they corrected me and put me in the right place. So now, yes, and that checking in on a regular basis, that confidence motivation absolutely can accelerate progress as well. Has that been something you've experienced at all?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's funny because we're going to kind of mix some of these up a little bit, but some of these 7 things. But I was thinking the other day that sometimes having somebody say, yes, you're actually on the right path. I don't have any changes for you. You're doing a great job, is just as useful as somebody saying, oh, nope, you're not doing it right, but here's the answer. I'm going to give you the answer to help you right now. Sometimes that can be equally useful. And, that was something that happened to me a lot. Just because I'm just very thorough. If somebody gives me a step-by-step thing, I'm going to go through it. And if it's a good step-by-step thing, I should be doing it right. But again, having somebody go, yep, you did what I said and you did it right. Good job. And then I can go, oh, okay, good. Now I can move on. And that raises my confidence. And then I was going to say something about motivation. Was I actually have a coach right now, not for internet business, but I'm learning to shoot a pistol. Just a strange, arbitrary thing. But I have a cop that's training me, so he's my coach. And, having him call me and say, we're going to train Sunday, certainly motivates me. And not just because he carries a gun for a living, but it's just useful to have somebody, keep you motivated and go, nope, we're going to go do this. And it's also a part of that accountability as well as, I'm paying him. He says when to go, and I go and learn the things. And, and as he helps me, I gain confidence when he says, oh, nope, you're doing that right. Just like we said before, or, oh, wow, you're going to shoot somebody's eye out with that thing.
Right.
It's just useful either way.
Well, a gun is kind of a high stakes thing, just like starting a business can feel like that as well. It's like, yeah, am I going to jam it? Is it going to backfire? Am I going to shoot somebody? Am I going to and wanting, that's certainly the kind of thing you want to feel confident carrying around using, whether for recreation or otherwise. So, I can totally see how that would be absolutely very helpful.
Well, and confidence is a really important thing. I didn't realize until I actually held a gun with live ammo in it in my hand how very non-confident I was. I'm like, having that on my hip seems so bizarre that, it definitely took a lot of, coaching to help me realize, and gain that level of confidence so I'm not afraid of it or feel very strange with it or something like that. So, yeah, the coaching was the key. I can't even imagine doing it without that in that case.
Yeah, another thing that comes to mind is that, actually, this kind of leads to, let me save this story. I'll use it here in the next example. But the fifth thing that we jotted down here is that a coach can lead you to new heights, can pull out of you things that you didn't know you had within you. I mean, there's just like, all the things you hear about, okay, if you hire a physical trainer at the gym, you are going to make more progress because, they're going to, encourage you to do those 2 extra reps. They're going to encourage you to do that little extra weight. They're going to encourage you to do that one more set of exercises. And, and the confidence and motivation and the step-by-step and the accountability, all that ties into a trainer as well. The story I was going to mention was, 2 years ago when I knew I wanted to it was a goal I'd had for a long time, make a short film. And it never would have happened if I hadn't just, paid for a class where I knew I was going to go and I was going to learn it. And when I think about the editing process, you're an editor, so you know what it's like. I'm sure having done it for a living, you got to a point where you were very confident in your abilities and all, if you see deadlines and different things like that. But had I just been left at my own devices to edit this short film, there's a chance that even now, 2 years later, that footage would still be sitting on my drive half edited, without knowing that it's like, okay, you know what, next week I'm going to go to class and my classmates and my teacher are going to be expecting to see my first edit and they're going to give me feedback. And then I was able to walk away from that going, oh, okay, they gave me some great feedback. I'm feeling more confident in what I did. They gave me a couple suggestions, so I know it's going to be even better. And that was extremely valuable. And the short film I did definitely turned out better because I did have that instructor to go to who gave me that feedback. And it's for that same reason that, a band goes into the studio with a producer to get that extra creativity out of them, to add those new ideas. Or the same reason we have, a copywriter that works with us. We don't have our copywriter just because neither of us, yes, it's partly because neither of us like to write sales copy. But also when we're sitting down and planning a new launch, a new product, he's the one that's sitting there going, hey, don't you guys think you could probably, we'll set like a conservative goal. And he's like, I bet you could do 50% more than that. And say things like that. So he'll pull even more out of us. And that, that's a valuable advisor to have as somebody who's going to push you to those new heights.
Well, and I was definitely not the right coach for you on that because my advice was don't do it.
Don't do it.
If you want a hobby that is crazy stupid at stealing all your time, definitely makes movies.
Right. Yep. All right, the next one we jotted down here was a coach is valuable because then you just don't feel alone. And I think we've kind of already touched on this, but yeah, it can feel very solitary. You can feel like, man, am I the only one doing this? Am I crazy? Am I just this lone wolf that's trudging through, am I just trudging through the jungle with a machete and like, this is just crazy? Because you might end up, you are going to end up with people around you going like, what are you doing? Like, no, you just work 9 to 5 till you're 60 and then you retire. Or what are you doing? No, most businesses fail. What are you doing? And so you absolutely, you got to have those coaches, those cheerleaders, those people who go, yeah, you know what? No, you're doing fine. Yes, those people are, they're going to give you that voice of dissent, but, believe me, it's going to pay off. And they are that. They have that positivity. They have that confidence in you, and they can be there to cheer you on when you are feeling like maybe you're alone in it. And that's incredibly important too. All right, and then the last thing is outside perspective, which also going back to that music in the studio, I've shared the story before where my wife and I had a band together, and we went into the studio, and we had recorded 2 or 3 CDs together, and we'd always just gone into the studio and basically been the songwriters and mostly the sound engineer and the producer and everything all at once. And finally, when we got the sense to hire an outside producer, we saw how valuable that was just because we were so close to the songs and the art ourselves. And you get so emotionally invested and you think you've crafted the best thing ever. And it may be a great song, but then the moment you bring in that outside perspective, somebody else who hasn't been playing the song for months and months now and who didn't write it and isn't so emotionally attached to this one little riff because they thought it was just the coolest thing ever, they can go, hey, have you thought of this? Maybe if you put a break in right here, maybe if you, I think we need to add a little pre-chorus here to lift it a little bit more before we hit the chorus, or different ideas like that outside perspective. It definitely made our album better when we had that. And we've seen the same thing in our business. So every time we go talk to a mentor, when we talk to our coach, or, last year we had Jeff Walker helping us with the launch, and that outside perspective was insanely valuable because we'd get when you're down in there in the trenches and working on your launch, and you can go, hey, I think you're missing this one thing here. And that one thing might have been something that, and you're just so exhausted and so close to it, you don't see it, but that one thing might have cost you tens of thousands of dollars. And in a matter of, coming in 5 minutes and go, oh, just don't forget that one thing right there I'm noticing. So the outside perspective is insanely incredible for accelerating your success and, not leaving money on the table sometimes as well.
Yeah, it's interesting because as I look at this list, there's a lot of similarity with mastermind groups. And I think that just the one particular difference that comes to mind right off is that with a mastermind group, you might be with peers that are all about the same level you are. So these things can definitely be useful, but it's definitely a different feeling these things with somebody that has already been there and has the answer. Right. Like That's a huge difference, so if you're feeling alone and you need that outside perspective, at least you're coming at, somebody's coming to you and giving you that perspective from, you're in the jungle with the machete and they're already through that at a base camp. Right. They know the path and can show you, where to be. So it's funny because, again, it just occurred to me that these are I like that mastermind group quite a bit, but that's the difference.
Yeah, definitely. So how can a coach help you? Well, they can help you get those answers that might be getting you stuck and you blow past them in 5 minutes instead of taking months. They can keep you accountable to the goals that you have. They give you that step-by-step map because they've already been there. They help boost your confidence and your motivation because it's somebody checking in and telling you, yes, you're on the right track. Yes, you're on the right track. Oh, take one step to the left. Okay, yep, now you're on the right track. And that confidence and motivation is invaluable. They lead you to new heights. They pull more out of you. They push you to just that extra step. They help you so you don't feel alone in your business, which can be very demotivating when you feel alone. And they get that outside perspective so that when you do have the blinders on and you don't even realize it, they can catch that one little thing that might make all the difference. So a lot of benefits, a lot of advantages that come from coaching. And coaches have played a key role. We're going to talk about it more in our next episode as well, of how to choose the right coach for you and some things you want to look for. But first, we wanted to talk about these benefits. So if it's something that you haven't had the chance to experience before, then maybe this will kind of help you keep your eye out and look around and go, yeah, you know what? I think it is the time that I get that coach to help me with all these things so I can really accelerate my coaching and reach the next level in my business. So we got an interesting breakthrough / announcement for you today. This comes from a friend of ours, Phil Clark, from over in the UK. So Phil is somebody who has been active on our blog for quite some time, active on Facebook, so we definitely recognize his name. And then earlier this year, when we were going over to the UK, he was very helpful in helping us find a place to have our meetup, a pub and whatnot, and met up with him there. And since then, he's been very, very serious about wanting to become, as in his own words, the top affiliate for Internet Business Mastery. And he's definitely been working hard at putting different ideas together and kind of came up with something clever recently. So he sent in this recent update, and let's go ahead and read what he has to say. He says, I was looking for a new way of both driving traffic to my Internet Business affiliate site, also finding a new angle to highlight to my followers just how good the Internet Business Mastery Academy really is. After doing some research online and talking to my coach, there's the coaching again. What do you know? Perfect. He says, I realize that a great way to demonstrate the quality of something is to use it yourself and then describe that to others. The real proof in the pudding is eating it, right? I wonder if that's something they say in the UK.
A little bit different than our way of saying it, right?
So I hit upon the idea of Online Apprentice 2011, where I would go through the academy week by week, set up an online niche business, and write and blog about my experience on my site. At the end of the process, I will have a fully functioning online business, 14 weeks worth of content for my blog, and even more importantly, my followers will be able to see just how great the academy is. If it can work for me, it can work for them. That's the logic. There's no Alan Sugar or Donald Trump this time, and just one contestant, me. But who knows, maybe in 2012 others will join me too. You can check out my site at www.internetbusinessforbeginners.co.uk and follow my progress there.
Sweet.
I like how we threw in Alan Sugar, the UK version of The Apprentice. Did you ever watch the UK version of The Apprentice?
No, I've seen a clip from it, but I've never watched the episodes.
If you think Donald Trump is hardcore, Alan Sugar, man, he can come down on you. But I liked Alan Sugar better. A few years back, I grabbed some episodes of the UK version. I had to get it off of BitTorrent because obviously we don't get that here in the US. But that's cool. So for those who don't know, that's why he was mentioning Alan Sugar and Donald Trump. Alan Sugar is the guy who does The Apprentice in the UK. Very, very successful businessman. But anyway, thank you very much, Phil. That's an awesome idea. We're excited to see your progress, and I think a lot of our listeners will be excited to watch your progress as well. So if you want to check out what Phil is up to, you can go to www.internetbusinessforbeginners.co.uk, and I'm sure he'll be checking back in with us from time to time to let us know how things are going.
And remember, there's a live question and answer call each month for Academy members where you can ask us anything about starting and running an internet business. If you're not a member, no problem. Just go to internetbusinessmasteryacademy.com and sign up now.
It's time for the Internet Business Quick Tip.
This quick tip continues our Summer of Success reading. Is that what we were calling it? Something like that. Summer of reading, success, reading book. Anyway, we wanted to spend the summer. You know, a lot of times people like to go on vacation, sit on the beach, read a book. So we thought we'd share with you and, you know, a series, several episodes long of how, you know, some of the latest books that we've been reading that have been exciting us and helping us in our business. And the one that we have to share with you today is actually one that's been very impactful in our business this year. In fact, probably, I mean, it's exactly what we needed right now for growing our business. It's a book called Ready, Fire, Aim. How did you first, you were the one that brought this one up to me, Sterling. How did you first find out about Ready, Fire, Aim?
Well, a kind of mentor and part of my mastermind group here in Salt Lake, and a guy that we have talked about him a little bit before. He works with a business that does about $180 million a year. And he's been doing some coaching with me on some stuff about our business. And he had said, you've got to read this book, Ready, Fire, Aim. And, you know, when somebody who, you know, works on a business that does about $200 million a year, you know, you definitely want to go get that book. So I think that's the way I first heard it.
Yeah, I mean, we were, you know, a couple months ago going, okay, well, we've reached a certain level in our business. I mean, you know, we analyze that on a regular basis, but there's definitely different phases of growth that a business goes through. And we were setting some new goals of, you know, the next level that we wanted our business to reach in terms of yearly revenue. And it's this book is perfect for that because it's somebody, a serial entrepreneur, Michael Masterson is his name, and he has started a number of information marketing businesses as well as other businesses too. And he's gone back in this book and looked at all of his businesses, talked to all of his colleagues and different employees he had at that in these different businesses, and put together a 4-phase process that he sees all businesses going through as they grow from $0 a year all the way up to $100 million a year. And he gives you an idea of what you should be focusing on in each of those phases and how to take yourself, you know, hence to the next level at each different point. So it was definitely very much on point for us. It immediately, I mean, after we were reading just the first quarter of the book, we're like, oh, we can already see one big thing we're missing in our business that we need to be doing. And then, you know, now I think I'm about halfway as far as where we're applying the things out of the book. You know, we're just, I mean, there's so much in that book, but it's like right now we're focusing on applying the stuff in that first half just because it's so dead on to what we need right now. But wherever you are, whether it's just starting out or if you're further along looking to go to the next level, there's definitely going to be a perspective in this book that will help you. Even if you only read the phase that you're in right now, I think you would get a lot out of it. So that's our recommendation for this quick tip is Ready, Fire, Aim by Michael Masterson.
If you'd like to get dozens of resources such as this one, you can find them in the Internet Business Mastery Academy, along with video tutorials showing you exactly how we use many of them. So to get your risk-free trial membership to the Academy, go to internetbusinessmasteryacademy.com.
You've been listening to the iconoclasts of the 9 to 5 Sterling and Jay. Sterling and Jay invite you to discover one of their most popular video programs ever, the Online Business Freedom Formula. Visit freevideogift.com right now to get instant access to this life-changing video series, pulled directly from the acclaimed Internet Business Mastery Academy membership community. Go now to freevideogift.com. Take control. Make more money. Start an internet business today.